Should I drop my therapist and find the answers in Tanya?
It's a little bit of a tricky question, as Chassidus, Tanya specifically, the main body text of Tanya deals with one who's already at a point where they're in a healthy state generally, but has difficulty with their connection to God, feeling motivated to do their avodah and having a sense of meaning in their avodah. It doesn't deal with chronic issues, although you could find mention of depression, perhaps OCD, other types of disorders Tanya would discuss. But if your person is dealing with a severe disorder, someone who has chronic depression, clinical depression, chronic anxiety, issues that are plaguing the person from a real psychological level, then they won't find the answers in Tanya, at least not clearly and not directly. Tanya does not openly speak about these topics. There are people that learn Tanya and could flesh out from Tanya these particular principles of how to deal with a given situation. Take, for example, someone who's suffering from a certain level of anxiety or OCD. Tanya may provide a certain understanding of how one should go about dealing with that. But there's a very big difference between learning Tanya and therapy. Therapy is something which is guided, directed to deal with a specific chronic issue. Let's say a person has a physical ailment, they're going to go to a doctor that treats that specific area in the body that their person is feeling unhealthy with. Learning about it in a book is not necessarily going to be as helpful either way. So we have to understand and appreciate the place of Tanya and the place of therapy. They don't necessarily come together. I will say that there are people that have this notion of therapy as being a way of just being able to understand themselves and become in tune with what's going on with their inner world and understanding certain past experiences that were negative and so on and so forth. And if they would be learning Tanya, Tanya would set them straight and give answers to some of the more basic questions that a person struggles, most people struggle with. As Alter Rebbe himself says in the introduction of Tanya, that in this book you could find all answers to all questions that one will have. So I will say that there are people that learning the book of Tanya, I would say for anybody or for all people learning the book of Tanya, definitely they will find many answers, and it will be life-changing if the person fully appreciates what Tanya is saying. That means also learning Tanya in its practical way, not as an abstract academic study, but as a guide and direction, a set of principles of how one should lead their lives and understand their purpose and mission in this world. But at the same time, someone who is suffering from a depression, a clinical depression, a certain disorder, that person perhaps needs to take medication. That person needs to perhaps go through a certain cognitive behavioral therapy or some other form of therapy that will be targeted specifically to dealing with the specific disorder that they're dealing with, and then they could then move on to their avodah and working on their avodah. I just want to finish with one particular point. There are people that become very caught up in avodas Hashem and learning Chassidus and seeing how Chassidus is so real and Hashem and the Torah is so real, and they therefore neglect their emotional issues. They may be severely OCD, they may be severely anxious and have other forms of unhealthiness, and they don't focus on it, or they don't think of them as real problems because the answer is in Chassidus, the answer is in Tanya, and that is an unhealthy approach, I believe. A person has to be honest and recognize what needs to be treated by a therapist and what needs to be seen from the perspective of Chassidus, And in order to be a healthy person, as Alter Rebbe begins, the very beginning, the very first question, so to speak, that Alter Rebbe deals with is how does one serve God properly in a state of positivity, in a state of simcha? And that means the person has to be on some level in a state of positive health. If the person is suffering from severe addictions or OCDs or things like that, then there's no way that they could serve God with simcha because there's something holding them back. So you have to treat the problem that will hold you back from being able to serve God properly. And once you do that, then you could come to the Sefer HaTanya. And Tanya is an intuitive teaching process of being able to go through understanding what the neshama is, who am I really, what are my dispositions, and be able to work through my struggles and bring me closer to Hashem.